And you're general. I'm not even mad that you were selfish. I'm mad that you were so stupid. How can you be in politics for 10 years and still have no idea how bad this would make you look? What were you thinking? I know my people are freezing hungry right now. So they need my beef flowers. Because if they see me in the street, their eyes will burst into flames and the whole family will warm their hands over those flames. I mean, look, I get that Ted Cruz is tired. Well, the man deserves a break after trying so hard to overthrow the government. But this is not the time, Dad. When your constituents said they need clean water, they didn't mean go find a wet t-shirt contest in Cancun. I mean, seeing Ted Cruz skip town for the beach has been very frustrating for the people in Texas. But on the other hand, it has been really exciting for the people in Cancun who got to meet him on the street. Wow, bro, I didn't know that Theo Frog was a real guy. That was awesome. And what's even worse is that when he got caught, instead of owning up to it and apologizing, he acted like a total Ted Cruz.
Breaking right now, update on the reports that Texas Senator Ted Cruz took a trip to Cancun as the state was dealing with massive power outages, something that had many of you upset online. A statement from Cruz saying, in part, with school canceled for the week, our girls asked to take a trip with their friends. Knowing to be a good dad, I flew down with them last night and am flying this afternoon.
Oh, I see. Will got this thing wrong. Ted Cruz wasn't going on vacation, people. He was just chaperoning his girls on the flight to Cancun. So in some way, this was like a reverse taken. I want you to know that I'm a man with absolutely no skills whatsoever. And I'm going to safely accompany my daughters on this trip. Seriously, Ted Cruz blaming his daughters for this is just gross. Being a good father means putting them on a bus, not throwing them under one. Although, to be fair, maybe Ted Cruz just doesn't know what a good dad is. I mean, his dad killed JFK. Ooh. But let's move on now to the place people wish they could send Ted Cruz, Mars. It's the next frontier in space and home to a legendary pop star named Bruno. Well, now scientists are about to find out if anyone else has lived there.
This morning, one giant leap toward finding out if there was life on Mars.
The Mars rover Perseverance successfully touched down on the red planet.
The successful landing will kick off NASA's most ambitious mission yet. The rover, after traveling 300 million miles in 7 months, will touch down on an ancient lake called Jezero, a site where ancient life may have been best preserved. The most dangerous part of the mission begins when the rover enters Mars's atmosphere, a period known as the 7 minutes of terror.
Yes, the 7 minutes of terror. And I'd be terrified too if I spent $3 billion on a Roomba. Please work, please work, please work. Best Buy won't take this back, please. But luckily, it landed safely, and now we're all getting a look at Mars, which we need, because things aren't going so great here on Earth. I mean, you know shit's bad in your neighborhood when you start looking at the Zillow listings for other planets. Although, if you ask me, you don't need to be digging in the dirt and analyzing soil samples to find signs of life on Mars. If you want to know if anyone lives there, just go up there and shout, "Cancel culture isn't real." Someone will pop out from behind a rock like, "Tell that to Chris Harrison." Even if they don't find life, though, this is still a huge deal to land a new rover on the red planet. And the next step with human life is to send Stacey Abrams up there to turn it blue. You can do it, Stacey. You can turn anything blue, girl. But let's move on now to our top story. COVID may not be gone yet, but our patience for it definitely is. So as the vaccine rollout continues, America is figuring out how to reopen its schools. And that heated debate is the topic of our brand new segment, Getting Back to Normal-ish. One of the biggest tragedies of the coronavirus pandemic has been the school closings that have forced nearly all American students into online classes. And it impacts everyone. Students, teachers, parents, next-door neighbors who can hear your Zoom school through the wall while they're trying to record a TV show. And after nearly a year of remote learning, President Biden has made reopening schools one of his top priorities, sort of.
President Biden promised to have schools reopened in his first 100 days.
I think it's time for schools to reopen safely.
But the White House is struggling to explain what they mean by schools being open.
The CDC rolled out its guidelines for reopening schools, much to the frustration of some stressed out parents and students who have been looking for a way back to in-person learning. The CDC guidelines focus on 5 strategies for in-person learning, including universal mask wearing, physical distancing, hand washing, cleaning, and contact tracing. But the CDC also recommended full in-person learning return only in places where levels of community transmission are low. The problem, right now, almost 90% of American children attend schools located in high community spread areas, so-called red zones.
Okay, it's good to finally have guidelines for how to open schools during a pandemic, but it's kind of discouraging that the guidelines are try not to have a pandemic in your area. Because it's like, yeah, that would be nice, but we want to keep going to TGI Friday. So what's your plan B? Or what do we expect? Opening schools is so intertwined with a global pandemic that it's bound to be difficult. If anything, it's a lesson to not make campaign promises. Because if schools can't open in these first 100 days, what Biden going to do? He's going to have to wiggle his way out of this. I meant 100 business days. Schools will be open. Although, obviously, no one should be inside the schools, but the doors will be unlocked, just like I promised. But Joe Biden is right. Safely reopening schools needs to be a priority. And you know that things are bad when even kids are complaining that schools are still closed.
All across the country, students are facing unprecedented challenges.
We're all really struggling.
Basically, it sucks.
I miss my friends, and I feel like I'm missing out on a big part of high school. I really only got to be in person for my freshman year.
In the classroom, things are comfortable and easy, but at home, things are very difficult and intense.
It's kind of hard to pay attention during class when you have to be like in front of a screen for like almost the entire day.
I need a break from my mom. I just need to go back to school.
1 second, brother, wrote this hard assignment on Martin Luther King Day. I have a dream. I want schools to open, but I can't do anything about it.
Oh, that is so cute. Oh my God. But it's not the point of the assignment. B minus. Read the instructions next time. I actually feel bad for these students. No child should have to spend 6 hours a day staring at a boring screen. That's what your 20s through your late 60s are for. But it is pretty weird to hear kids say that they want to go back to school. Then again, this pandemic has done that to everybody. Every adult I know now is like, oh my God, I can't wait to be on an airplane again, sitting in that middle seat, squashed between 2 people's armpits while the flight attendant tells me that they're all out of the good crackers. Oh, I can't wait. And this is about more than just kids feeling cooped up. There's some evidence that their education is suffering and that their mental health definitely is. Kids are stressed out, they're depressed, and not to mention having them on the computer at home is incredibly disruptive for the parents who have to work. I mean, imagine presenting a sales meeting right when your kid's teacher is getting to the end of Charlotte's Web. So as you can see, third quarter projections are wait, she dies? So it's no surprise that many parents are saying schools should just open up no matter what. And when that doesn't happen, they're blaming the teachers.
Across the country, anger from parents is boiling over.
Figure it out! Or get off the podium!
Much of their anger directed at the teachers union.
Our school board is forgot who the primary benefactors and the primary reason for their existence is, and that's the 187,000 students in this county.
We can talk about teachers being afraid to go to work, our groceries workers afraid to go to work, our doctors and nurses afraid to go to work. Yes, but they go because it's an essential service.
There are some teachers who are benefiting from teaching at home, and this may be a reason they don't want to go back. Then there's the teachers that are posting on social media about going out to restaurants in other counties, and also posting that they don't think schools are safe and don't want to go back.
Go to work or quit. Time to poop or get off the pot.
It's such a shame that parents have to fight with teachers over the safety of our schools. You know, they missed the days before the pandemic, when all they fought over was teaching evolution. And to all the parents out there, I know that these are unprecedented and scary times, but please don't forget, teachers are not the enemy, okay? Your children are the enemy. Their dumbasses didn't need to be educated, nobody would be fighting at all. So, if kids are antsy and parents are angry, why aren't teachers going back to their classrooms? Well, I mean, maybe there are some teachers who just like working from home. For one thing, it's a lot harder for a school shooter to get you over Zoom, and it definitely smells better than being a class full of eighth graders. But most teachers want schools to reopen as much as anyone else. And they've seen the report saying that it should be done as safely as possible. The problem is that much like new beaches, what sounds good in theory doesn't necessarily match the reality.
A recent CDC study says there's little evidence for transmission in schools where precautions are met. But some teachers' unions say school systems do not have these COVID-19 precautions in place for a safe reopening.
We have very old ventilation systems in our building. As you can see, there is not one fan installed into our building right now.
Just because there isn't much contribution to community transmission doesn't mean that there isn't individual risk to the teachers and staff who are working in the schools. I want to go back, but I'm not risking my life, my family's life, the kids, not just us.
CDC says states should prioritize teacher vaccinations, but should open schools even if they can't. That's a problem for some teacher groups who have been urging schools to vaccinate educators before sending them back into a classroom.
Teachers are being left to run around to try to make their own appointments at pharmacies to get vaccinated, like some sort of bizarre Hunger Games situation. Yeah, teachers are out in the streets fighting for vaccines like it's the Hunger Games. And kudos to that guy, by the way, for working in a reading that into his interview. Because he's like, I feel totally disillusioned with the American dream, much like the titular character in the Captain. And I'm not gonna lie. All of this has made me a little confused about what America actually believes in when it comes to supporting teachers. Because right now, it feels like there's mixed messages. Teachers need to carry guns so that they can keep themselves safe in school. Could we get a vaccine so that we can be safe in the schools? Hell no! Suck it up, you cowards! But more importantly, if opening schools is a priority, then America should act like it. And it should give teachers the resources and the protection that they need. Not only because it will get schools open again, but because it's the least you can do for teachers in return for them explaining to your kids how sex works. All right, when we come back, we'll find out how Tucker Carlson got that way. And Russell Westbrook is still joining me on the show, so don't go away.
Need to get away from it all, but only for like 4 hours? Then come to Cancun, the perfect vacation spot for your half-day getaway. Grab a taxi from the airport for the whole family. Then grab a moped for when you have to speed back to the airport in shame. Enjoy our beaches, nightclubs, and... Uh-oh, the chief of staff is calling. And with our new Bad Optics package, you'll get same-day round-trip tickets, enough sunscreen to protect you for 4 minutes, and a free written statement saying you were always planning to be in Cancun just for breakfast. Cancun, what the f*** were you thinking?
Hey, world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckle tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight, but not in your hands trying to take somebody back. Because the your car might just snap. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Whenever your day starts, start with Gillette. Gillette's new Comfort Plus Dry Tech formula is designed to go on dry and fight sweat instantly. You'll feel fresh even up to 72 hours without irritation worries. Gillette.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive a bus.
I'm finally the king of my own castle, but my castle has leaks. And so I use Thumbtack to find terminators, electricians, roofers, and plumbers. Thumbtack has everything. We're everything. I can check out reviews, prices, and book the pro I like on the app. So anytime something breaks or leaks or invades my house, I know exactly where to go. It's good to be king. I'm your people. Download Thumbtack today.
Welcome back to the Daily Social Distancing Show. Let's talk about Tucker Carlson. No, don't you now. Let's talk about Tucker Carlson. Fox News host and America's biggest stepbrother. Yesterday, Fox announced that Carlson will be an even bigger presence at the network with a podcast and a series of specials. So the question is, how did Tucker Carlson become the legend that he is today? Well, to find out, here's the first installment of our brand new segment, The Daily Showography.
What makes a legendary journalist? Gravitas? Honesty? Eyes so piercing they can give you a nose ring? No. It's adaptability. And no one's better at that than Tucker Carlson. Man of 1,000 faces, but also somehow only one face. Tucker Swanson McNear Carlson. His father was a journalist and U.S. ambassador to the Seychelles, a popular vacation spot for people's money. His stepmom was an heiress to Swanson frozen foods, a heritage he still pays tribute to with his trademark frozen facial expressions. He has a brother, Buckley Swanson Peck Carlson. You don't really need to know anything about him, but how about those names, huh? Others might have tried to downplay their wealth, but downplaying was never Tucker's style.
Well, I'm like extraordinarily loaded just from like money I, inherited. I never needed to work.
He didn't need to work. We could be living in a world where Tucker Bronson and Chad Carlson isn't on TV every night. But luckily for America, that didn't happen. After college, Tucker took his talents to journalism, rising to prominence as the liberals' favorite conservative. Everyone liked him. He seemed normal and unwhite supremacist-y. Tucker Swan Lake reports from Carlson took that palatable conservatism to CNN and PBS, eventually becoming a perpetually bow-tie co-host of CNN's Crossfire. There he helped steer cable news away from meaningful discourse and more towards people shouting talking points at each other like the Housewives review. It was going great until one day when a Comedy Central extremist infiltrated the set and wreaked havoc.
Your partisan, what do you call it, hacks. Now, this is theater. I mean, it's how old are you? 35. And you wear a bow tie. Yeah, I just
After surviving that ugly attack, Tucker made the difficult decision to move on. Desperate times called for desperate Tuckers, so the butterfly emerged from yet another cocoon and flew to MSNBC, where he was respected and likable. Someone you could definitely trust, like Matt Lauer. You know who was pals with him back then? Rachel Maddow. It's weird to see now, like Emperor Palpatine going to brunch with Baby Yoda. Carlson's low-rated MSNBC game didn't last long, but his personal brand only grew stronger. He was not going to rest until the world knew all 36 of his names. Having flunked out of TV twice, Tucker Seamus McDuff Carlson began rebuilding his journalism career by working with one of radio's most respected broadcasters, Bubba the Love Sponge, where he was able to channel his inner shock jock.
I love women, but they're extremely primitive. You're talking to a feminist. She's giving you men really need to be more sensitive and just, actually, you just need to be quiet and do what you're told. I'm not defending underage marriage at all. I just don't think it's the same thing exactly as pulling a child from a bus stop and sexually assaulting a child. The rapist in this case has made a lifelong commitment to live and take care of the person. So he's a little different. A rock is a crappy place filled with a bunch of, semi-literate primitive monkeys, and the Brett calls them our retarded cousins. She just does seem a little. Yeah, you said it. I just agree with it.
One thing couldn't be denied. Tucker Carlson said all that out loud, on purpose, knowing other people would hear him. Plenty of people would be proud to co-star calling women the C word, but not Tucker. In 2010, he remade himself yet again as the public intellectual behind the new website, The Daily Caller. Soon, he was ready for his most important role yet, Fox News superhero. Tucker Vanderpump McRib Carlson was home, and this time, he became something completely new, a man of the people.
Democrats have become the party of the elite professional class, eager to lecture you about open borders, global warming from their gated communities.
The most privileged people in our society shouting down at Trump's voters. Damn you, working class Americans! You must be looking quiet.
Tucker, you went to the elite schools of this country.
I did.
We should
That's why I know what you stand.
It was the performance of a lifetime, an aristocrat who spent his entire adult life working in media, acting as if he had just crawled out of the coal mines and sat in front of a TV camera. And Carlson wasn't afraid to use his new term to uplift the most needy among us, people who hate immigrants.
Our leaders worship multiculturalism because all cultures are equal, except they're not all equal. Our civilization is superior, and we need to defend it. Latin American countries are forcing demographic change on this country at a rate that American voters consistently say they don't want. We have a moral obligation to make the world's poor, they tell us, even if it makes our own country poorer and dirtier and more divided. Isn't it crowding your country the fastest way to despoil it, to pollute it?
Tucker's Swamp Thing that left Carlson was like a beautiful reverse Statue of Liberty, telling everyone to get their tired huddle masses out of here. But any Fox News host could hate immigrants. In fact, most of them did. So Tucker upped the ante.
How precisely is diversity or strength? Do you get along better with your neighbors or your coworkers if you can't understand each other or share no common values? White supremacy, that's the problem. This is a hoax. This may be a lot of things, this moment we're living in, but it is definitely not about Black lives. And remember that when they come for you, at this rate they will. We have every right to fight to preserve our nation and our heritage and our culture.
The skull of the African, the area associated with submissiveness is larger than any human or any other subhuman species on planet Earth.
Tucker was on fire like a cross on a black family's wall. But as 2021 began, he was once again restless for a change. So Carlson put on yet another hat, this time made of tinfoil.
Democrats rigged the election in front of all of us, and nobody did it right. And what about this vaccine? Why are Americans being discouraged from asking simple, straightforward questions about it? Questions like, how effective are they safe? And by the way, how much are drug companies making off this stuff? The virus effect is totally real. It's in no way part of a PR campaign devised by cynical consultants to try to hide the president's nearly by misdirection. All. Their love is as real as climate change.
A little nuts? Well, maybe. But unlike the moon landing or a 44-year marriage, it really was this. And well, yes, at least one person did super.
Cut this off fun.
That any reasonable viewer knows that even things Tucker says are facts.